When I arrived at the site, my fingers clenched and my temples pounded with wild rage. This wasn't my site. It was some kind of goddamn festival field. There were tents everywhere. People were walking around with bottles in their hands. A fire was burning somewhere. Music was playing. Loud laughter. I abruptly got out of the car and looked around at all this madness. I walked up to a man lazily sipping a beer from a can. "Who are you?" I growled. He narrowed his eyes, took a sip of beer and chuckled.
I'm relaxing, man. Relax.
Relax? Anger boiled up inside me. This is private property. I didn't have time to say more because suddenly Karen was running towards me from the campsite, screaming,
"Get the hell out of here!"
She screamed, waving her arms as if she was going to hit me. I turned to her. "What the fuck is going on here?"
This is now a property controlled by the HOA.
Karen threw up her hands.
Get out immediately. Your disgusting presence is only getting in everyone's way.
I tried to walk past her, heading towards one of the vacationers. But before I could take a step, Karen sprayed me right in the face with pepper spray. "You damn!" I wheezed, blindly backing away.
If you stick your nose where it doesn't belong, you'll get it again.
But let's start from the beginning. I grew up on a country plot. My father taught me to take care of the land. He believed that a real person should understand nature, know how vegetables grow, how to take care of the soil, how to be a part of this cycle. My father said that this land is our heritage, our fortress, which will always belong to the family. But life made its own adjustments. When I grew up, I moved to a metropolis where I was able to realize my potential and build a career, but every summer I returned here to breathe in the smell of trees to help my parents take care of the farm. That season, my parents went on a long-awaited trip and asked me to look after the plot. I happily agreed. Moreover, I had an idea to make a surprise, to plant their favorite peach trees on the plot. My father always dreamed of a peach orchard, but he put off this idea due to lack of time. Now I had a chance to make his dream come true. I did not postpone the trip and went to the house. But when I arrived at the plot, I was overcome with real horror. Instead of the usual quiet corner, a camping camp was spread out in front of me. Dozens of tents stood in rows, ropes with drying clothes stretched between them. Backpacks and plastic bottles were scattered everywhere. I stopped abruptly, not believing my eyes. I turned to the man who was lazily sipping beer from an aluminum can. "What the hell is going on here?" He looked at me lazily and grinned.
Relax, buddy. We came here to relax.
"This is private territory. Get out immediately."
We paid for the place, buddy, so let's not make a scene.
My heart sank with anger. Paid? To whom? I turned around, getting ready to walk around the area, and at that moment I heard a familiar, unpleasantly smug voice behind me.
Oh, and here comes our favorite neighbor. What an unexpected meeting.
Her arms folded across her chest, looking at me with a satisfied expression. "Karen, what's going on here?"
Oh, what do you care? The HOA set up a campground, but the longer you stay here, the worse the atmosphere gets.
I felt my insides boil. "Are you telling me that you set up a paid campground here, on my family's private land?" Karen sighed as if I was talking nonsense.
The land was empty. I'd advise you to get in your car and drive away.
"You didn't even ask my permission," she shrugged.
Why? Who the hell are you? I'm the HOA representative, and you're nobody.
"This is fucking illegal."
Look,
Karen put her hand on my shoulder, but I jumped back sharply.
these people paid to stay here. They are here by law. We have temporary contracts, all within the rules.
"Whose rules? Yours?"
The HOA rules.
Her eyes flashed with a cold gleam.
And now, if you don't mind, I'll get back to my duties.
I barely kept myself from yelling at her. "Shut this mess down immediately, Karen." Karen and a bunch of tourists pushed me off my lot. Without thinking twice, I called the police. When the police arrived, their car was turned away by security guards, citing the lack of a warrant. But I wasn't going to let it go. I took photos, recorded Karen on a voice recorder, and immediately contacted my lawyer. We decided not to waste time and get busy preparing. The very next day, we were sitting in the courtroom, presenting all the evidence to the judge. Photos, audio recordings, property documents, and the testimony of several workers Karen had hired without official permission. Karen was confident, but I could see the tension flickering in her eyes. She was again trying to play her usual role as the mistress of the neighborhood, talking about the well-being of the community, rational use of the land, and other nonsense. But the judge wasn't buying it. He carefully reviewed the materials, listened to our arguments, and finally said, "The court confirms the fact of illegal use of private property and orders that a police warrant be issued to immediately stop the defendant's activities on the specified territory." Karen abruptly shrank back, but continued to stand, clasping her hands together, as if hoping that all this would somehow resolve itself. A few hours later, several patrol cars were already entering the territory, breaking through the HOA guards, who, apparently, hoped to the last to defend their queen. But when the officers presented an official warrant, Karen finally realized that this was the end. Her face first distorted with anger, and then abruptly changed to a plaintive, ingratiating expression. "Officers, I'm sure this is some kind of misunderstanding," she squeaked in a sweet voice that clearly did not match her previous aggression. "We just need a little time to sort out all the details." "Ma'am, the court ordered immediate execution of the decision," one of the police officers answered dryly. "You are obliged to return all the tourists their money and stop illegal activities." I folded my arms across my chest and looked at Karen. "Well," I said with a slight smile, "apparently your 20 years of experience didn't help you much?" Karen shot me a murderous look, but quickly changed tactics, looking at the officers with a forced smile. Of course we'll give it all back," she muttered. I was enjoying the moment. Watching her grit her teeth and hand over cash to angry tourists was almost a theatrical performance. But I decided to take advantage of the situation to the maximum. "By the way," I said when the last person received their money, "as compensation for moral damages, the court ruled that you must fulfill any request I make." Karen tensed up. "And what do you want?" she muttered. I smirked. "I need some peach trees planted on my property." What? Karen almost choked with indignation. It's not relevant." "It is," the policeman answered calmly. "It's part of the compensation you are obliged to provide." The anger on her face gave way to complete despair. She clenched her fists, but she had no choice. She had to fork out for seedlings and then hire the remaining tourists to dig up the earth and plant the trees.